Been a while since we've gathered to discuss the series, but I like to think this set has some of my best work, such as Chapter 51, The Superstar's Life Story. The new era of MKK begins here with Chapter 51. It started as a simple amalgamation of the Johnny Cage trilogy, but now taking place in a universe that has a single timeline, meaning some scenes would need to be moved around and altered to fit that. But me being me, I kept adding to it. I added Johnny's death in MK3, his return in MK4, numerous scenes focused on the Cage and Briggs families, Johnny's big role in Armageddon, and so on. The original 3, plus the successor's potential which seemed prudent to include, total around 26 pages. This story is 54, slightly over double the length. There's so much new and altered content that it can't be considered a simple rewrite of those older stories anymore. One thing that changed thanks to the time frame change, which I'm only bringing up as an excuse to use the movie skin in a video again, is who played Johnny in the movies after he died. If someone was only going to read a single MKK chapter, this is the one I'd recommend. It tells a complete story, spanning from Johnny's pre-MK1 history all the way up to post-MKX with a clear arc for Johnny, Sonya and Cassie. This is probably the story I'm most proud of in MKK, so please give it a read even if you've read the stories that were amalgamated into it. But it's embarrassing to admit that one thing I forgot to include in it is, well, how Johnny and Sonya first met. It took me a few months after release to realise that, and I feel pretty dumb for that. Chapter 51.5, The Team's Bonding. An adaptation of the jail scene from MKX was going to be the follow-up chapter, but it was folded into Chapter 51 since it's important to Cassie's arc here. It was the cause of some trouble, actually. I liked the idea that Vera had destroyed one of Jax's prosthetic arms with her grip during childbirth. One problem with that was that I wanted Jax to use the sleeves until he lost his arms in Armageddon, but Jackie and Cassie are born after MK4. So it was either weaken the idea to where she just broke his hand, or restructure everything and have the post-time skip era come a full decade after it does in the games. In the end, I found another option. Keep the time frame as is and simply give Jax and Vera a second child, Bo Briggs. If Bo becomes a fighter, he'll take inspiration from Jax's early concept as a kickboxer. Additionally, I stole an idea from Drake Vagabond and forgot to credit him for like a month. That makes Jackie more interesting. It was alluded to in the Superstars reboot, but Jackie in MKK doesn't use gauntlets as her main thing. She instead has a drone and a turret that she built herself, having been into robotics since she was a kid thanks to her dad. She does still have the gauntlets, but only to free up her hands for tech stuff, with the focus being on the built-in guns instead of the punching aspect. Additionally, her capoeira was taught to her by her mother, who, in MKK, is of Brazilian descent. Chapter 52, The Empress's Downfall. This ushers in the new era in another way by introducing something I hadn't used in MKK before. I'm going to give a bit of a spoiler buffer here because I think this is one of those stories that benefits from going in blind. Please give it a shot right now. If you don't intend to, then I'm going to spoil it. The story begins by describing Twindel's backstory. Then it pulls the rug out from under you by revealing that it was actually talking about Valkaria, my MKOC, who was designed to take Twindel's backstory and prove that it would have been better used with a new character than as a retcon of Sindel's backstory. I'll probably make a video about Valkaria someday since I have a full storyline plotted out for her, which MKK will be using as well. All you need to know for now is that she was the Queen of Vaeternus, the vampire realm, before betraying her husband and marrying Shao Kahn. She despises Kitana for serving as a constant reminder of Sindel, thereby preventing Valkaria from truly stealing Shao Kahn's heart and obtaining the power she feels she deserves. I don't plan to go overboard with OCs because that's always obnoxious. People come to fanfiction to read about the canonical characters, not Kugo, secret brother of Goku who can tap into Ultra Saiyan God Ki to reach a power level of 80 trillion. I'll only be introducing the ones I think are of the highest quality and have the most interesting story potential. Chapter 53, The Spectre's Rebirth. This one started as the opening scene for the story of the Lin Kuei and Shirai Ryu, but I felt it works better as a standalone piece. It depicts the deaths of Hanzo and Bi-Han, drawing parallels between the two. The head rip now utilises Sub-Zero's signature powers, similar to how Kano used his knife for his heart rip in an earlier chapter. From there, it goes to Scorpion meeting Kuai Liang and coming to discover the truth of the younger Cryomancer's identity. Chapter 54, The Dragon King's Method. Another of those simple ones that explain an idea. This one is set during Deception and has Onaga explain how he's manipulating Kitana to deepen his control over her. It gives some character to the Dragon King and draws parallels between Kitana's mind-controlled state and how little control Melina has over her life before she chooses to take it later in the timeline. Helps to strengthen Melina's arc, you know? Chapter 55, The Hero's Choice. Very simple, this one depicts Liu Kang's victory over Shang Tsung in the tournament, and shows the monk's refusal to kill the sorcerer, which ultimately sets up his own downfall from the very beginning. Chapter 56, The Archer's Return. Kung Jin's backstory had to go through some notable changes in the merged timeline. In the game canon, after Lao's death in Outworld, the Kung family lost everything and Jin became a thief in America, angry at Raiden for letting Lao die. Wait, how did that clip get in here? In MKK, the time skip occurs after Armageddon, and Lao does not die since I wanted to avoid having anyone who died and been revived as a thrall going through that a second time. So how can Jin fall into disgrace if Lao lives? Ultimately, I ended up bringing Jin's homosexuality more to the forefront since that made the most sense to me. He is outed around the time of Deception partly due to his failure to protect Liu Kang's tomb back in the Archer's duty. Lao, given his nationality and lifestyle, has never met a gay person to his knowledge and doesn't really know how to respond, which doesn't go over well with Jin. Jin flees to America, trains under Nightwolf to hone his archery, then becomes a hooded vigilante. I also did a bit of research into how China has historically viewed and treated gay people, and I found some interesting details that I did originally include but had to remove because if the story was taking place after those events had happened, it would have meant that the time it took for Lao to finally come and look for Jin would have been a bit too much and hard to view Lao in any way sympathetically, so I had to tone some of that stuff down unfortunately. Now, putting so much focus on Jin's orientation may not have been the best choice, but I like to think that there's still more to Jin in MKK than just his orientation, and also that the discussion of how China treats gays gives some meaning to Jin's arc being focused on it. If not, I'll just have to try harder in the future. Chapter 57, The Oshtex Reunion. That feeling when you realise you're unironically writing a Kotal x Jade fanfic. This one came about because I had some ideas for how to make Jade's sudden relationship with Kotal work on some level. I won't get into it now because I'm planning a wasted potential that covers this very topic, so for now I'll just say that the central component of this story is that the Revenant Jade is Kotal's Jade, not the past one. She's a different version, like the coupling of Ollie and Dinah in Injustice 2 that isn't adequately addressed. I also came up with a way to explain the Kotal family name by creating a new aspect of Oshtek culture, and I also refuse to shy away from the fact that Kotal is just as barbaric as his predecessor, but also a hypocrite and a fraud. Chapter 58, The Quest's Conclusion. This one is the conclusion of Deception's Conquest mode, delving a little deeper into Shujinko's character and the way the Kamidogu works, such as why Vaeternus' Kamidogu isn't around at all during Deception. I have it that the original quest was to retrieve 5 Kamidogu, but it got extended 9 years ago when Ideni was freed from Outworld. Luckily for Shujinko, he doesn't take long to retrieve Ideni's after getting Seido's. Chapter 59, The Runner's Defection. This is the story I've alluded to being held back a year because of then current events. This ties into a way I plan to amalgamate the different versions of Cabal on Wasted Potential. He quits the Black Dragon to become a cop, then accepts Kano's invitation back, but only so he can serve as an undercover cop and take the Black Dragon down from within. Then it goes poorly. With this one finally done, the subsequent Cabal stories set during Deadly Alliance and Deception can finally be continued. But not quite yet. Chapter 60, The Sanguimancer's Pilgrimage. Continuing on from Chapter 52, but about a decade later, Scarlet ventures into Vaeternus after its restoration by Natara. I wanted to actually flesh this realm out, which the games never did. Natara herself even makes an appearance, but not as Shang Tsung's fuck buddy. It serves to continue the Valkaria story, hence the original title The Empress's Return, and also sets up a motivation for Natara during Armageddon, but the focus is on Scarlet and how a certain force in Vaeternus wants to manipulate her. And if you think this whole Flesh Pit's creations have no agency thing is a bit repetitive, trust me, I'm going somewhere with it. It's just going to take a while to reach that point because there are a bunch of other story concepts that are further along than that. I've still got a few more chapters planned and some partially worked on before we get there though, with chapters about Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Cabal, Cassie, and yes, eventually the first meeting of Johnny and Sonya. Johnny's story just won't be complete without it. If you liked this video, then read MK Chronicles. Come on, what are you waiting for? There's no reason not to, what are you doing? If not, I don't care. Today's recommended series is Mortal Comedy. It's an all-time classic, a live-action comedy show starring Sub-Zero and Johnny Cage in an odd couple dynamic with Fearless' Sub-Zero as a straight man to his wacky co-stars. Chapter 60, The Sanguimancer's Privilege. Pilgrimage, fuck.